So sonrisa means smile. So my hat says sonrisa por favor. So it's a bar call, which is sonrisa please, but it also means smile please. And so from here to you, my friend, may we always smile together and put smiles on lots of people's faces.
Amen, brother. Thank you. Cheers. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 34 of the Success Series. I'm your host, David Berg, with our co-host and producer, Michael Konowski. Very special guest today and a good friend, Shareef Malnik. Shareef, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, David.
Shareef has a beautiful story. We're going to get into the intricacies of it. Was in the hospitality world for 30 years. Very famous restaurant, The Forge, here in Miami, Florida. He now has moved on to many more exciting things. It's a continuous journey with Shareef, as I'm learning. Shareef is the co-founder and CEO of Sonrisa Rum, the best tasting rum on the planet. And I can say that I've tried rums before, never liked any of them. Sonrisa was the first one you can actually sip on. Sonrisa Rum is available on the website today. Shareef is also the chairman of Make-A-Wish in South Florida. Amazing organization. They just opened up a new wish house in South Florida. If you're driving down the highway, you can see a beautiful building making children's dreams come true. It's an absolute honor to be here with Shareef today. Many other parts of his story that we'll get into as well. But Shareef, if you could get us started with how you got, into this path in life with so many different journeys, what your childhood was like, and we'll kick it off from there.
Thank you. I grew up in Miami Beach. I'm a Miami Beach guy. Went to school in Miami Beach. Didn't have a particularly spiritual upbringing. I mean, we would go to Temple on High holidays, but I didn't really understand the spiritual aspect of that. I originally got into the hospitality business because my dad he was an attorney and sort of a deal maker, but back in those days, he said that there wasn't a restaurant in Miami Beach that he really liked, so he made one that he would like to go to. So I actually took over that restaurant in 1990, and I was at the helm for probably 25 years.
Wow.
And had nightclubs and bars and private cigar club and live music venue, Cuban music, and did a bunch of different things in that realm, and with a fair amount of success. And at some point, as much as I love that business, I started to see myself, like, I fast forwarded. There was a great nightlife guy by the name of Peter Stringfellow, right? So the Stringfellow's in London, and he opened up the Hippodrome in London. So I used to go there when I lived in London, like back in the 80s and 90s. And I knew him. He opened up a place in New York. And then one day I saw him, and he came into my restaurant, and he was like an older guy with long hair, a hearing aid, and had a young girl sitting on his lap. And I said, ouch, like I do not want that to be me one day. I have to find a way to exit hospitality. It's like, when do you retire? Like when you're Michael Jordan, do you want to retire,
And your best years, or...
Yeah, or like when people feel sorry for you.
Right.
I kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Even though you're super young, and
Yeah, but it was time.
Right.
And quite frankly, after doing it for so long, and also the energy that I was around all the time, I just felt, and in other ways, I felt like there's some more important things for me to do at this time in my life than this.
Right.
So I got into finance, and a co-managing partner of a financial company that lends money across the United States, and various other things, and ultimately, I'm now in the spirits business, so I'm really excited. So, my restaurant, Dave Grutman, who's Groot Hospitality, he's kind of like the hit guy. So he's our partner now, and he's investing all this money in the restaurant. I'm just a passive investor and landlord. And
to this day.
Yeah. So this is the new Forge, which is all Dave, which I'm really excited about, and not me. I mean, it was really hard wake up in the morning. Not hard. It was beautiful. I loved the journey, but it was me then. I'd wake up in the morning, go to my office in a suit, and I'd go straight to the restaurant, and then I'd come home at 11 or 12 o'clock at night,
Right.
see my wife for an hour, and do that 6 days a week. And then I realized that the entire time I was dating my wife, or most of it, or a lot of it, and certainly all the time we were married, I never really saw her or the kids. And I was like, okay, I'm going to change this.
Right.
So I changed my financial business. So I went from 55 employees to 4 and doing more business.
Wow.
Right.
How did you just shave off all those employees?
I just used, great business techniques that I learned in my master's program at UM. And, which I went back to school to sharpen my skills, even though I'd been in business all my life. In 2019, I got my MBA.
Wow.
Because I wanted to sharpen those tools again.
How many years post-college did you?
It's like 40.
Wow.
Right. And then in COVID, 40 years after I went to law school, I took the Florida bar during COVID, right? And passed, thank God, and became a lawyer. And I got to use that now in doing pro bono work and fighting hatred and anti-Semitism around the world. So I'm a constant student, trying to learn, trying to evolve. And, when I was younger, I wanted to be the most powerful person in the room and everyone knew it. Now I want to be the most impactful person in the room that no one knows.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And we often say that people's childhood and their upbringing largely influences who they become and who they are. With you, it feels like you've redefined who you are in every area of life. How do you feel that somebody who maybe grows up in a family business or has expectations from their parents at a younger age can kind of navigate through that and still create their own identity and, a place where they're expected to be somebody?
Yeah. So that's great. So I think first is the less baggage that you have. It's hard being the son or daughter of successful people, right? Like are you measuring yourself against them, or are you trying to be like them? Or are you trying to be better than them? Do you feel that, you're there because of your value, or are you there just because they know you and love you? Like, you can create a lot of hang-ups, right? And a lot of, you can actually create low self-esteem. Like, so if you have low self-esteem, nothing's going to work.
Right.
So it's important to know that I just was at a funeral of a very dear friend of mine's father. He was telling the story and he's the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, right? The company's revenues are $24 billion a year.
Wow.
His dad founded it. He's the CEO, made it better. Right? He proved himself early on, where he worked harder than anybody else, and he never asked for a raise. He said, "I just want to prove myself. I don't want to reap the benefits today, right? Delayed gratification.
Yeah.
I want to reap the benefits later and prove myself." And he is the CEO. And it was a beautiful story. He told this story at the funeral. The dad was 94. I know him very, very well. My father's friends with him for 65 years, and Wayne, we went to high school together and law school together, and they're my distributor actually for Somebody So Rum, Southern Glazer Wine and Spirits. And it was such a humble journey, but this is a guy that grew up appreciating everything that he has, being humble when people in his position would not be. And he's risen, and been blessed to steer this company and add millions of dollars of revenue, and has earned everything. So there's no self-esteem problem there.
There's no imposter syndrome, or he shouldn't be in this. That doesn't exist because he's put in the work like anybody else would have.
But
right,
how did he start that? I believe, and that is that he didn't. His ego wasn't driving him.
Yeah.
His ego didn't say, I want to be, when can I be the vice president? And when can I be the senior vice president? What about me for CEO? He said, I'm not going for any of that. All I want to do is focus on what I'm doing and do the best job I can. And then all the blessings and light actually come to you. Okay, so he wasn't thinking probably, well, what's the spiritual thing to do? He was that guy, right? He's one of the rare people that actually has it. Until today, I know him as I certainly don't know anyone nicer. So I could say he's the nicest person I know, or one of the nicest people I know, because I know a lot of really great, nice people now, especially in my life. But certainly no one's nicer than he is. He's a kind, humble human being. And under the circumstances, he would be the guy that shouldn't be humble. And usually isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the top of that industry, right? Right.
When you look at guys like what power and money does to some people like P. Diddy,
right?
And others, Harvey Weinstein,
right?
And so he could be that guy,
right?
If he was the kid that always wanted more and needed to prove himself for his own self-worth, the way other people see him, as opposed to his own self-worth because he views himself as a valuable and credible and authentic human being.
I think that's such a great point. I often talk about this with friends and other people my age. Big issue, and I fall victim to that too, is that there's this constant need to both prove yourself to the world and then obviously your immediate family and your friends. And I think, like you said, it's knowing that once you've received that internal self-esteem, you built that framework within yourself, then everything manifests. But as long as you're needing to prove something to somebody else, you're actually pushing it away, right? It's the opposite of it.
But it's also, I think that, not sure about this, but that need to prove themselves to other people. Where does that start? Where does that come from? Does it come? So let's say if a person is a lazy kid, he's not doing well in school, he was already going to start getting self-esteem problems because everybody's doing better than he is.
Right.
Or if he's, a skinny kid and nobody's picking him when they pick teams and he's always the last one to get picked.
Right.
Nobody wants him. It starts to create. So, you can see where that comes from. It has to come from somewhere. So I guess, maybe it really comes down to you have a really great head start in life if you have good parenting. Mm-hmm. If your parents create self-esteem in you, where being picked from that team is not the most important thing in life. There are actually other things that are much more important, which will serve you and will make you successful and make you happy and give you, this abundance, right? And the abundance doesn't come because you're liked on the team.
Right.
Right. So parenting, and spiritual education, which is really coming from your parents mostly. Right. Maybe that's the solution.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic point. I love my parents, so that's
you've got some pretty good parents. I love them too.
Yes, absolutely. And so jumping to the hospitality world, I know we spoke about it before the podcast a little bit in other conversations. A lot of younger people, they see that as, I've made it, it's glitzy, beautiful woman, it's the life that you think you want. Being in that world, seeing the good and the bad, what would be your thought process or perspective to somebody in their 20s that has a strong desire to be in that world?
Great. So I would first want to do some self-examination as why do I want to be in the world? And so you use the word glitzy. If I want to be in the world because, they always say about drug dealers, don't get high in your own supply. Right? It's the same thing in nightclub and restaurant business. Are you running this operation or are you partying? And you're creating a party atmosphere that you get to go to every night,
right?
And be the king.
You just want to be a partier. That's right.
And be the king. Everybody wants to know the owner,
right?
And get in, and get a table, and you
somebody's looking
bottle,
at you. Yeah,
I was super famous. So
right.
Why do you want to get into it? So then it comes back to the same thing: that humility and lack of ego. You will do much better if the reason that you're in it is because you want to build something that's great, right? And we have that common friend, Eugene Rem, for example. Right. Who's been a super successful guy. He's all business, man. He's, meticulous and, he's running a great operation. He's humble.
Right.
He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
And so you can see great success there. So I would first analyze that and then move up the ladder in hospitality. Even if you're opening your own place, go work in the kitchen. You know, like, I mean, I did start when I was 13. I was peeling potatoes and washing dishes. You know,
That was your first job?
that was my first job.
Yeah. Did you hate it or you loved it?
No, I was so excited.
Yeah.
When I finally got to cook the potatoes in a pan on the line, I was like, this is amazing. I'm actually cooking now,
Right.
you know, like, yeah. So,
That's really cool.
so, but you got to know every aspect of the job, right? Of the business, you know, and then that's just the physical side, you know, then the more mundane things of finance and bookkeeping and accounting and taxation and real estate and, you know, design,
Service,
yeah,
right.
but you need to learn it. It's too competitive out there. You know, if you look at a city of Miami, which used to have a lot of places, well, we weren't that great. Now, Bon Appetit magazine picked us as the number one restaurant city in the United States.
Wow.
Right. So who's here? You know, like major food group,
Right.
Like major corporate brands are here that have lots of expertise and you know, we're talking like when I'm meeting with people now with their beverage directors,
Yeah.
you know, or their national account beverage directors. These are super sophisticated, bright people,
Right.
that, you know, you need to know the game really well. So I would say take some hospitality courses, study, find a mentor, you know, go in and take any job, just get your feet wet, you know, and also understand how much hard work it is,
Right.
Because I don't think anything comes
Great
about
points.
without hard work.
Yeah, I think most of the younger generation, I don't want to generalize all of them, have this mindset. It's just what social media shows you, that things come so quickly. You can make money quickly. You can be successful quickly. As you can say, that's just not true, right? Anything worthwhile is going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of time. And so I think that changing that narrative is just super important in today's day and age, because then you're constantly thinking, okay, it's going to take 3 months, but it's not. It's going to take 6 months, right? It's like this a never-ending cycle. When you were younger, how were you able to overcome that thought process of like, you know what, I'll work for 5 years, I'll work for 10 years, however long it takes. It wasn't a deadline. Like I'll try for 3 years. If it doesn't work, I'm done. How did you overcome that?
Well, a lot of years, a lot of mistakes. Right? So, you know, hindsight's 2020. If we only listen to all the advice that elders have given us, you know, well, we wouldn't be who we are today. We're supposed to make those mistakes.
Right.
You know, like there are no mistakes,
Right.
actually, right? If you're committing them, that's what you needed to commit in order to get to where you need to go. And I think we both understand that spiritual concept. So I was impatient as a kid, and I was extremely hungry, and, you know, so a lot of that, you know, change for as you get older, but also as you experience, like everything has a timing, a cadence. So like for example, my wife has this amazing trait. It's just such an asset. It is something that most people don't have. She does everything right away and early. Everything.
Right.
So, you know, 99% of the time that's great, but you can also be too early, right? So everything has a timing. If you had to choose between being late and early, you got to go with her, because
Right.
she's got a habit that is, it rubs off on me in a
Yeah.
positive way. Right? You know, she's a good partner. Like,
Right.
yeah, I like that habit. I want to be more like her in that way. But also you can be too early. You're putting a business together. You spend the limit. You trademark it before you even realize that so you just blew, you know, $4,000
Right.
with lawyers. You know what I mean? Like everything, some things aren't supposed to go that fast. Like, you know, to build Sonrisa, we just launched in January. It took 2.5 years to get here.
Wow.
Yeah.
2.5 years. What were the biggest like roadblocks or hiccups along the way?
So I would say I wanted to put my co-partner, co-founder, who happens to be my cousin, the number one marketing guru in the world today, actually.
Wow.
He's a beast.
Incredible.
He's amazing. And so we said, before we raise any money, we want to check off every box to mitigate risk. And if we can't check them all off, whatever we spend, we lose. It's just, we don't want to take a risk. It's too risky of a business. It's too complicated. And so as we're checking off the boxes, so, you know, I have Jay as my partner, and he brought on the top designer from Google and Apple. And then I was, you know, fortunate enough to be introduced by Wayne to the former CEO of Absolute. So we brought him on. And then we brought on Orlando, who was a CMO for 4 unicorns. And so I'm like, wow, we're checking off all the boxes. So I go, now I'll go get the rum. So reach out to a particular distillery that you know, would make the best rum. And I find out that there's no way we're selling you rum, our like super aged rum, or making a blend for you. Like,
why not?
Because we want it for ourselves, right? And our board doesn't trust people, outsiders. So I said, you know, so I'm back to Jay. I said, can we do another country? He goes, no, it has to be Puerto Rico. I said, okay. So I said, let's just go to Puerto Rico.
All right.
So we show up in Puerto Rico, and I call the CEO, and he says, I said, hey, we're here for other business. Not true. Okay. I was just hoping he would see us.
Right.
I guess I want to.
Or anyways in town,
by the way,
we'll stop by.
And I'm not dying.
If he says no, you're like,
That's not supposed to be. Right. Which is very different than me 20 years ago.
What would you have said 20 years ago?
I would try to make a square peg fit in a round hole, and I'll hammer it and hammer it and hammer it
until
yes. Right?
Yeah.
When maybe it wasn't supposed to go in that round hole, and I actually there was a pot of gold waiting for you on another road, but no, I'm on that road. You know,
Right.
that was me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, let's just go there. Let's just go. We show up. He says, well, you can't. I said, well, come to the distillery. He was like, no, thanks. I'll come to your hotel. Like, you're not coming into this.
Right.
So I sat down with him, and I was really being completely honest and totally relaxed, right? Like, and confident. I had certainty that whatever comes out of this meeting is the best thing for us, right? I don't have to make this work. I think we need it, but if it doesn't work, maybe we don't.
Right.
Right? I'm open to that. So I said, I'm here I'm not here to convince you. We had lunch. I'm not here to convince you to sell us rum. Okay, so I hope you do. But not this time I'm here. I'm here for 2 reasons. I just feel it's important that you know who we are. You run a family business, and this is a family business. It's my cousin, and every business I've ever done in some way is a group of us as family, my whole life. And quite frankly, I'd like to keep it that way, you know? So I'm here to show you that we're ethical people with family values, like your company is. And if nothing happens after this meeting, other than the fact that we're going to be really close friends because we like each other, then so be it.
Right.
And I said, the second thing I'm here to tell you is, so I want you to understand what these values, how they manifest. That $1 from the sale of every bottle is going back to the small businesses in Puerto Rico. Not from the profit of every bottle.
Oh, wow.
From the
Total
sale.
Wow.
Right off the top.
Wow.
Right? And so think about the farmers, the fishermen, the people who deliver ice. People who have never recovered from COVID or Hurricane Maria.
Right.
Our brothers and sisters, our American brothers and sisters who are suffering in Puerto Rico, who aren't part of the FEMA money, who are or don't get, you know, the money from corruption, from corrupt government, right? Those people. And so that's what we're going to do. And if we do it with your rum, or we do it with another rum,
We're going to do it.
that's what we're doing.
Right.
And I just want you to know, we're not just trying to capitalize off of your success and just, you know, take. We want to give. Right? Fast forward, they hired a outside consultant to look at our business, to take it apart.
It is a deep dive into everything you guys
Every single thing we're doing.
Wow.
Right?
It's like an IRS audit in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that outside consultant,
Yeah.
who's objective, met with their board and said, we recommend you do the deal with them.
Wow.
So 2 years later, they all flew here. We had dinner outside at my pool.
Beautiful.
And I bought a really expensive bottle of one of their rare rums,
Yeah.
right, by a different brand name.
Right.
And he's like, how did you find that? Like, you can't even find the bottle.
Oh, really? It's that rare? You can't.
It was out. I bought it on the black market. Like
Wow.
they don't have any more of them, right?
Wow.
And we all toasted with it, right? Which really they loved that whole idea. And then the last box to check before we raise any money is that I went back. You know, being friends with the CEO of Southern Glazer is great. I got great advice right from the beginning because I went to him first. I said, my cousin says, who's famous for disrupting markets, he says rum. Before I commit to him, is he right? He says, let's sit with the analytics department. We spent 3 days.
Wow.
And he said,
And they know everybody, right? So it's
and they have all the data that no one has. Every drinking data in the country. There are 44 states, the biggest in the country, right? And he said, your cousin's right. Rum is next. And your business model, we think, can do it.
wow.
So you have a national distribution agreement with us. So that was the last box to check. Yeah.
How did that's fascinating. How given rum was, I don't want to say obvious to your friend at Southern Glazers as well, how could you first have had the foresight to it? That's my first question for you. And then two, if he knew that as well, why does Southern Glazers not manufacture their own alcohol as well? And if they do, then why did they just create a rum at the same, like, you know, kind of give us a little more background to that.
So there are rums out there.
Okay.
And there's some good rums.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of cheap rum.
Right.
Right. But I don't get the credit for coming up with rum. My partner did, because that's what he does. So, like, he just signed a deal with LVMH. He runs all their entertainment, film, and television for 75 brands.
Wow.
He does the same for Nike. His clients are also Coca-Cola, Chipotle, Unilever.
So he's really the best in the
Diageo.
world.
He's won 4 Emmys.
Wow.
38 Cannes prizes, 4 Cannes Lions. Like, he was the former chief creative officer at CAA. If now when he sees this, he gets embarrassed because I don't let him. When we do a Zoom, I don't let him introduce himself because he doesn't say anything about himself. He's too humble.
So you have to go.
Otherwise, I barred him from speaking about himself.
Right.
I'm introducing.
Well, I guess he'll just downplay the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to show what a great team I have, and you're downsizing yourself.
Right.
You know, like
I help with marketing.
so
right.
You're too humble. I got you.
Right.
You know? So he said it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what he's good at. That's one of the things that he's good at. So, but they proved it with data, right? So the premiumization of rum, like the premiumization of tequila and bourbon and whiskeys and vodka, is where the market went. There's been no breakout brand on rum.
Right.
So that's going to be us.
I have no doubt. And if somebody's a tequila drinker or a vodka drinker, do you see rum as a replacement to that? Is it in complementary with it? How would you get somebody who's always drinking tequila or always drinking vodka to now say, okay, rum's my new go-to?
So, like, millennials, my cousin uses this term, are promiscuous drinkers. Okay?
They're not loyal
They're
to
not
anyone.
loyal to anyone.
They'll mix all of them in the same night, right?
So they have a portfolio of drinks.
Right.
Okay. So then when we're looking at pricing, and the Reserva, which is the black bottle right there, is our sipping rum, right? And so we were going to price it at $79.99, which actually is a really good price for something that good.
Right.
He says make it $59.99 retail. It's less than if to wholesale. Retail, because people will walk into a liquor store. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that knows.
Right.
His gut.
You can trust it.
It's like Malcolm Gladwell calls it thin slicing. Like your brain is doing thousands of calculations. Right. So there's actually not just your gut, there's data involved. Like he says, consumers will walk into that store, see the price of your Reserva lower than their favorite super premium tequila and bourbon, and they'll try yours.
I don't know if our camera can pick up a lot behind us, but aside from all the exciting things, the things that you've done in spirits world and other stuff we mentioned, you also flown planes, you've also raced boats, cars. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your inspiration to go into that world? Was it just pure curiosity? Is it fun? Like, can you kind of give us a little into that?
Well, at a deep level, you talked about young people trying to prove themselves. I think most of my youth, I was trying to prove myself and to become the man that I had defined in my mind of what a man is. I don't have the same definition. So I'm not the same person. So when I saw in my mind, this sort of masculinity and death-defying and somebody who is really cool when they're faced with death, I thought, that's a man. So I want to be that man.
Right.
So I spent so many years doing things like that, and coming into some dangerous situations in my life, and trying to prove my manhood. And now I know that has nothing to do with being a man. I had a good time doing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't regret it.
That's the morbid side of it, but it also probably was a ton of fun, right?
It was great. I loved it. It was super cool.
Yeah.
Right? But my consciousness wasn't,
the reasoning for it wasn't there. Do you still enjoy those things today, or now that that desire for proving yourself is out the window, you don't care?
I
to
do
race?
enjoy them. Like,
do?
Yes, I do. But, also when I married my wife and I have 3 step kids, so I knew little kids,
Right.
and I have a son and a grandson, and I was doing a lot of that stuff, some highly risky sports
Right.
when I met my wife. And at some point, and I hung in there, and pushed it really hard.
Yeah.
And had a couple of close calls, and then I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, it just hit me. Like, it's like also exiting sort of hospitality. Like, why am I doing this? Is this serving me? Like, so I stopped the super crazy stuff. And
A little less crazy now, right? Just
no, yeah, like
what
I'm not doing anything that's,
like life or death any given moment.
no.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing that you'd say you've done?
I think that deep diving was probably maybe the most risky.
Okay. How deep in the water did you go?
500 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
500 feet.
Yeah, cave diving also. Yeah.
Wow. And how long is the descent?
The descent is fast. It's the ascent that's slower because you're detoxing. You're off gassing all this nitrogen, so you don't get the bends. But I used to dive with a rebreather.
Okay.
So it's on a tank. But it's complicated equipment, and it's developed by the Navy SEALs. So you have a canister on your back with something that looks like cat litter in there. It's called soft line, and you have some counter lungs right here that are like neoprene, and you have one little bottle of pure oxygen, and then another bottle of other inert gases like helium and nitrogen, and I have 3 computers.
What do you do while you're okay?
So what I'm doing is I'm exhaling, which is carbon dioxide, which is poison,
Right.
right? And it goes through the soft line. It takes out the poisonous gases, but now it's not a livable gas yet. So now I have to add oxygen and inert gas like helium to displace any nitrogen. And it depends on so if you look at like on Earth, air, right? I think it's 21% nitrogen and 89% oxygen, right? No, it's 21% oxygen, 89% nitrogen. So you have to reduce the amount of oxygen as you go deeper, right? So like when I'm at 500 feet, I only need 9% oxygen. If I have 21% oxygen like you have on Earth, it will kill me. It becomes
Wow.
toxic. Yeah.
So if it's on the exact percentage.
So I have to. So if you were on tanks, you'd have to
Right.
stage tanks at different levels of oxygen, which is really slow, right? So what I could do is, as I'm descending,
Right.
it's reducing my oxygen based upon exactly where I'm at,
Wow.
and as I'm ascending, it's adding oxygen. So instead of spending 9 hours coming up,
Right.
I can do it in 2 hours,
It's 2 hours.
a couple hours
Wow.
on the ascent.
So the slightest miscalculation and your life's over. Essentially, that's how that would work.
Pretty much.
What
Or
do
if
you- yeah.
there's a failure,
Right.
right? Like
could be out of your-
hose breaks or
Right.
I'm
sure has happened probably
You know.
countless times, right? In deep diving.
Well, I tell you, I was trained by this guy, and he's a former Navy diver, and he's like a 13th degree black belt in this, and he studies qigong, so there's a spiritual side to it. So I used to do some of these exercises with him, like before we go cave diving, we would go in the woods at 5 a.m. and work with energy, because the whole idea is to be intuitive to see something. If you get a feeling that something is about to happen, you should assume that it's going to happen, right? So I had just done this 500-foot dive in Grand Cayman, and it was like a dive team of like 6 people, and one of them was a woman. And when we got to the top, one of my guys, friends of mine said, or a guy that I met on this trip, he said, like, if we ought to gone 20 more feet, we would have broken the world record for a woman on a rebreather. Wow. Let's do it tomorrow, right? And let's break the world record and be her support team. And I saw in my mind, I visualized a newspaper headline that said, we died.
Wow.
I saw it, like,
wow.
Headline, died. Like, this is not a good reason to do this.
Right.
So I said, I'm not going, right? And my dive buddy, another former Navy diver, says, I'm with Shareef. I'm not going. So we went instead. We did like a 250-foot dive, just the 2 of us. No, actually, it was another group. We go down with them. We're heading out to drop down off this shelf. And so I'm in shallow water. And I have one problem happen. Then I have a second problem happen. Then I have a third problem. Once you have too many things going on, right? So my equipment was failing, right? Which would have been the same equipment that I was at that world record dive.
There's no way you would.
And I don't know what would happen, but like you train for emergencies, but it would have been a serious situation.
Wow!
I had to bail on this dive, right? And I realized that I was saved actually, by a higher power. No question about it. Yeah, everything happens because of a higher power, period, including all of our success. Things that we mess up is because we mess them up, right? Not God. The higher power.
Right, or the higher power,
right. God doesn't mess up, right? We do. Right. And so one thing that I realized as I discovered Kabbalah, and one thing I'm very grateful, that all these crazy mistakes in consciousness that I had, and things that I put myself through, like the reason I'm so grateful is that he or she is so compassionate and gave me so many chances at life, so many chances to get to me where I am here today, sitting here with you, right? Like going from some person who was placed in my life that not out of nowhere, seems like out of nowhere, gives me a link to Kabbalah 1 in New York to meet Eitan, who ends up becoming my teacher, your parents becoming my spiritual leaders, and you becoming my brother, right? Is I'm so grateful that I was allowed to get this far, that I didn't pass away, or never find my road, and so. Do I take credit? I take credit for giving a big effort, but I don't take credit for my success, because there is no success without working with the light.
Wow. Yeah. And so to that point, what do you think is the reason why you've been gifted or merited to have all those second chances and to end up in this path? What would you say if you can kind of just look back and think on it?
Well, it's certainly not because I earned it.
Okay.
So you receive way more than you earned.
Okay.
Like your heartbeat.
Right.
Would you earn that? Like earth, oxygen, the rain. Right. You didn't earn that. Right. You're really blessed to be able to.
That's an awesome perspective.
Right. So I would say first and foremost is because our Creator is the most compassionate, and He had mercy in spite of myself.
Right.
Okay. He also created me, so He knew
that you were bound to go through all
I would catch on, and then maybe I can spend the rest of my life trying to live a life that helps to spread more light.
Right.
Like I was given. And, so like through all my business experiences, and I've never had such an opportunity that really where I felt that the light was with me in everything that I'm doing. And, I heard somebody say it, and it's really true. It's so much easier working with the light. Like, man, you have to work really hard when you don't have the light, and you don't really get where you think you want to get to.
Right.
It's not, so it's been an amazing journey and an amazing experience so far.
Right. For somebody like yourself who's achieved much success before coming to spirituality and the level that you are now, what would you say to them as far as why they should start studying, given their lives are already probably great, they're already achieving a lot of success, right? What would be a reason for them to now come and pursue a path of spirituality?
Well, you have to be ready for it. I don't know what that means. It doesn't mean you have to be intellectually ready for it.
Right.
It has to be something in your heart that you realize that you're missing something. If you don't realize that you're missing something, or if you're high all day, you can't. It's not gonna help because you don't even know what you don't have.
Right.
And people also rationalize and lie to themselves that a lot of times that you're leading a life that's actually not right, but you insist that it's right because you don't want to be wrong.
So you convince yourself of this lie.
Convince yourself and everybody else that I'm proud of that.
Right.
And,
Love what they're doing.
So when you can say, hey, you know what? There's got to be so much more to life than what I'm living, like a greater purpose. Like honestly, like today, and I had a yearning for years, and I didn't know what I was yearning for, though. I was yearning for spirituality. I didn't know that I was yearning for this.
Right.
I had to find it.
You always had that intuitive feeling that you wanted something that you...
Certainly, it grew. I didn't always have it. I didn't have it when I was younger. I didn't have it in the middle of my heyday in the nightlife.
Right.
No. But as I started, something happened. I started getting it before I met my wife, because if she didn't recognize it in me, she would never even have gone out with me.
Wow.
So something was changing inside me. I was changing. And then I met her, and she's a very spiritual person. And I had this yearning. So I said, I had not been to a synagogue in so long, other than going to somebody's bar mitzvah or a wedding, and I was like, I feel this need to go to shul. So it was on Yom Kippur, and I got this house, and I didn't realize how I got the blessing of this house. Like everything worked out so perfectly was so I could go there that day. I know that.
That's what... Really?
Oh, I know it 100%.
The entirety, all the blessings in this house.
I wanted another house. I wasn't buying another house.
You weren't like...
My wife wanted this house. She would come to this house every day. I told her, honey, please, let me sell the other house. Right. She blindfolded me on our anniversary. We came here, had dinner in the house. My chef from the restaurant was in the kitchen. I'm like, we're going to get arrested. She goes, the owners want us to spend this and every anniversary in this house. I'm like, I feel bad. I'm not buying the house, right? Then she calls me up in the office one day. She says, the owners are dropping the price by a huge amount. They're getting divorced. I said, well, really? I said, tell her, don't put it in the MLS. And on Monday, that was Friday, on Monday I made the offer. Right? I didn't know why.
You didn't know why?
No, I didn't know why. Why would that? I was a gifted business.
Right.
Under market value. And then COVID came, and then it tripled in value.
Right.
Why? What was the reason? And so had these questions, and so I had a rabbi coming here, and then he was a friend of ours, and we were like chaired his think tank for a while, and he stayed in our guest house, and I would ask him questions, and then I had this yearning. I go to the Chabad shul here, and I walk in. I was nervous. I was anxious.
Why? Because you hadn't been in so long to
and I felt out of place, like maybe not accepted. Right. I even had a rabbi call another rabbi to call the rabbi to say I was coming.
Oh, just to
let him know. Is it okay?
That's right.
And so I walked in, and he hugged me, and then somebody else walked up to me and gave me a hug. Right. And then made me feel good. Like, hey, I recognize you from Miami Beach. And then a guy walks up to me and goes, hey, Shareef, my name is Richard Swerdlow. I dated your sister 25 years ago. I don't know if you remember me. I'm like, of course I remember you. So great. He gives me a hug.
Yeah.
Right. And he says, I studied the Kabbalah. He walks up as they're reading the Torah, and he hands me the Kabbalah Center, that book, that part.
Chumash, the translation. Yeah.
Right. And so he says, read the footnotes, because you don't know what they're saying.
Sure.
And that's going to tell you what it really means. Read the footnotes. This is the real meaning of the Torah in this footnotes.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Give him back the book. Like a month later, I get in the mail the 5 books of Moses from the Kabbalah Center as a gift from him. Right. By the way, I haven't seen the guy in 25 years.
Yeah, he decides. That's
right.
Right.
So I said to myself, I guess I'm supposed to read the Torah. So I didn't even know that there's a parsha, even though I was bar mitzvah and I went to Hebrew school. I didn't even know you read a parsha
every week.
I didn't know that. So I said, I guess I'll just start with the first book.
Sure.
Chapter 1.
Yep.
I have no idea. I didn't even know what first reading, second reading, third reading. I didn't even know what that means.
Right.
So I started reading it. Right. Then a few months later, he sends me a text, and he says, no pressure at all. But there's a great teacher, Eitan Yardeni. He's teaching Kabbalah 1. He's in New York. It was during COVID. He says, here's the link if you want to try it. I go on. So this is by the way, there's a reason for this story, because you asked a question like, why should people start studying?
Right.
Right. Well, this is how I started to study. So maybe we can find a parallel, some common denominators in other people.
Right.
So I watched the first one and I go, and this is what I was yearning. I didn't know what I was yearning. I knew I was yearning something, and I'm looking for it, you know. So I took that effort to go to be spiritual in a spiritual holiday, and boom, 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 all these doors started opening. Right? I was supposed to be there,
Right.
but I would never have been there if I didn't buy this house, ever. And I told my wife, "There's no way I'm buying a house while I still own the other house. It's not fiscally responsible. I have to do the right thing." And I ended up buying the house.
Yeah.
And the money to buy the house and the finance, everything's so smooth and beautiful.
Right.
Right? The price, unbelievable. And then I find the shul there. I go there. Then I get the book and I read it. You know, the book of Moses. And then I get the gift.
Right.
And then I get the link. And now I'm watching this and I go, oh my God. So for 10 weeks, all week, I'm really excited for, I think it was every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
They're like 8 o'clock.
Can't wait for that.
And I'm like, I can't wait.
Right.
This is amazing. Right. So I say, but now it's over. You know, I'm waiting for, Kabbalah 2. And so I emailed the Kabbalah Center. I said, I'd like to meet my teacher, Eitan. It's complicated, and so, somebody, well, he's not taking the students. I'm like, I am a student. I'm one of hundreds.
Right.
I didn't know there's other students.
Right.
I
Oh, you thought this was the group, right?
Yeah, I'm a student.
Yeah.
I am a student.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, right. He go, yeah, but I said, so I didn't stop.
Yeah.
No,
Over and over.
Then I start calling the Kabbalah Center, like, I want to meet Eitan.
Yeah.
Where do you live? I'm in Miami.
Yeah.
But I can come to New York.
Right.
Okay, but what were you thinking of? I'm like, I'm not thinking of anything. I don't want
Right.
anything.
I just want to
I'm
meet.
not asking for anything.
Like
I don't want it. I don't even know what that means to be a student. I think I am a student. So I just want to talk to him. I feel this need to connect to him.
Right.
So we do a Zoom. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
Right. I don't even know what we talked about, but it was just free flow. Right. So at the end of the Zoom, and Eitan's very unique style of speaking, he says, I would like the chemistry between us, and let's talk again in a week or two. So then we spoke again. He says, I'm going to be your teacher.
Wow.
Right. So that guy, who, by the way, moved to Costa Rica. Okay, Richard,
your friend.
the guy that connected us.
Right.
But he studied Kabbalah for 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, in the Miami Center, and with some, like, I think Shimon, who's a famous guy there, and I think that was his teacher, and so he's amazing. He's coming to town. He's coming this Friday for Shabbat dinner. By the way,
Beautiful.
Richard. Yeah, I owe him. And then we have another connection now of this Sabrina. I met her once. She met him in Costa Rica. He mentioned my name. They texted me together. And so that's how she got to Kabbalah Center here. So he passed it on to me.
Yeah.
I passed it on to Sabrina. Sabrina passed it on to Debbie and Nikita and Parker. And that's how this whole thing goes.
Very cool.
So there are no coincidences. Like, just if you open up your eyes and you realize that you're on the right path, because it's all working. Right. So
you can't plan it.
So now you ask, going back to your question.
Yeah.
Long-winded answer. Well, now I think is identifying that something's missing in your life.
Right.
Right. If not, then it's not going to help you.
Right.
Because you're not going to recognize it. Right. And you also won't see the difference. Like, if you think everything is great all the time.
Right.
Then how is it going to be greater? But maybe you start to recognize that this isn't the life that I was meant to lead. This isn't the best version, perfected version of myself.
Right.
And so if you can go in and ask that question and say, there's room here, So like now with the study that I've done, and I'm still a student forever, and, there's so much more to learn. And, I look up to all the knowledge that you have and your parents have and Eitan has. I say, like it's changed my life so much that when I think back, what would I be doing right now if I didn't have this spiritual world that is part of my physical world in every way?
Right.
Like, what would I be doing? It would seem like, honestly, now it would seem like meaningless.
Wow.
It would just make everything.
Even though you've done so many great things and you've created so many great businesses, it would feel meaningless.
It would. If you don't find that thread of what I find is spiritual and appreciation and gratitude in everything that you're doing, it's less tasteful, it's less delicious, it's less beautiful, you know. So I think that's, for me, why you want to do this. So you start everything has more meaning. You're doing the same thing, but it has more meaning and it's richer.
Right. Yeah, I think two things from what you said about your journey coming here. One is persistency, obviously, right? With following up and knowing something was clear to you. You didn't know what it was you were looking for with Eitan, but you knew you had a desire to meet him. And so going on that. And then also just, right, how many people are open to taking a book from somebody and then reading it and then joining a class online? So you had to proactively take all those steps in areas that maybe weren't comfortable or were new because of that innate desire you had internally. So I think
that's very true.
Right. Listening to your voice and then being persistent.
Listening to your voice, and you're right, and persistence. So one of my life lessons is in everything, and including business, spirituality, running a marathon,
You did that too?
Yeah, I did.
There needs to be a list of just all the great things you've done that aren't related to business. You know?
But the one thing, a lesson I learned in everything that I'm doing, and in all my spiritual training, and in my business, and studying for the bar, whatever it is I do everything with baby steps, and training my body, right? Like with baby steps,
right?
Because I don't ever want to go backwards. I refuse. So as you want to be spiritual, you don't want to just dive in and I'm going to do everything. And then like 6 months later, you're done.
Right.
Right. So for me, I have enough hindsight to know that the only time I've ever accomplished anything is by taking it slowly and being patient. Again, another reason for patience and timing.
Right.
Right. Like it's impossible to go from 0 to 100 in spirituality or in anything else overnight. Like no matter what your desire
right.
and want is, you have to earn it. Actually, you have to earn it. Right. Which we know.
Otherwise, it's bread of shame. Right. It's you get without working for it.
Right. So you don't just get to be spiritual because you want to be.
Right.
You have to put the work into it. Yeah. And then it's much more satisfying. And then you have self-esteem, which is what we started with.
Right.
And the lack of self-esteem is what ruins most people because they didn't earn anything. You know, we can.
It is full circle, right? So the earning brings the self-esteem brings the success. So it's interesting. I guess I would ask another question and follow up on that. A lot of people struggle with just even knowing what to do when they wake up in the morning, right? They start their day. How do you find consistent purpose on a daily basis? I know you said things just kind of come to you and you manifest, but if we just boil it down to like a day-to-day basis early on in your career, early on in your life, how are there things to do?
Okay.
So a simple question.
So early in my life and today are different. How I start my day. Right. So you want to start with early in life?
Let's start with, and then we can jump to present day, but just.
So I had different stages of my life too. So
right.
If I own restaurants and nightclubs and I'm up late, but then when I got into finance, I'm up super early, you know, or when I'm training, you know, for some accomplishment. So I had to get up as early as I possibly can. And I would usually, back in those days, start the day training, right? Physically training, which would give me, I felt that training gave me discipline that I could use in every other area of my life. So it was really in like having perfect form, going in that gym when I didn't want to, you know, every aspect of it. Right. So, and intense training is what I did most of my life, which I'm less intense today. I just don't have the time and I'm reprioritizing my life. So that's how I would start. And then I would have, you know, it's like gym, cold plunge, you know, these sort of physical, regimented things, newspapers, you know, which I still read.
I mean, this 3 papers,
right? Yeah. But now, today, like the first thing I do is not workout. The first thing I do is a spiritual practice every single day. right? So everything I try to do is like for the marathon, right? So so first I have to start light, right? And then my spiritual practice became, ultimately, then I started praying 1 time a day. So that I can't pray 3 times a day, I'll fail. And let 6 months go by and add a second time. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I'm not there, And then, so I had a rabbi staying in my house. So that's my morning. So, the 18 blessings in the morning, and then I actually read the newspaper, and then I daven and read Torah. That's how I start my day. That's setting up my day spiritually to kill it. I can't fail with that practice, right? Impossible.
Love that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like I can't fail. Whatever's going to happen is exactly in my benefit for the rest of the day. It's an amazing feeling. So I don't look at, before I do that little initial blessings, I don't look at any text or anything. My only mind is to start my day spiritually, right? I work out later in the day now. It's not my first thing, because the workout is not my God. Okay? It might have been when I was younger. The workout was my idol, right? But actually, I had it wrong. Okay? Connecting spiritually, that's my God, right? And that's what's going to serve me the best. That's how I can serve myself the best. And then, yes, work out.
Right.
And do all the other things.
Complement it with it.
Right. So, and the business. So, but I'll tell you like another amazing thing. Like just as amazing as how I got the shul and the link and Richard. Right. So I had a rabbi stay in my guest house. And it was really it was when I had all this yearning going on, but I hadn't really started the spiritual practice.
Right.
I still hadn't started. I may have right around that time I started the Kabbalah class. So he calls me up. I was out. He says, Shareef, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what? I go, what, Rabbi? He says, I left the door of the guest house open, and the dog, one of your big dogs, came in, and I had my tefillin out, and the dog ate my tefillin. Wow. I'm like, oh my God, how did I? Rabbi. I didn't even, on so many levels, I was like, I felt guilty. I felt like, why did this happen? I know it happened now, but why did this happen? I'm like, Rabbi, I will go and I will buy you a new tefillin. Right? So I drive, I find out there's a place called Torah Treasures on 41st Street. Right? Now Yaakov is my buddy. I was meant to go there and he's become my friend now. Right? I get all my stuff from him.
Right.
So I go, hi. My dog ate my rabbi's tefillin. So he told me to get him a tefillin. It doesn't have to be a super expensive one, so what do you recommend? So he puts out the tefillin, and I'm like, and the rabbi said, just get it to me before sunset, or I'll have to go to a Chabad and use their tefillin. I said, great. So I was standing there, and I'm like, this is a crazy thing. Why am I in here? So I said, I literally talked to myself. Shareef, can you commit to putting tefillin every day for the rest of your life? Right now. Think about it, right? Can you do that? Are you actually think that you can do that? I said, give me 2. And that was over 4 years ago.
Wow. You just had that thought in that moment, just out of nowhere.
It wasn't out of nowhere, though.
Right. No.
Yeah. And I followed that voice.
Wow.
That inner voice. So a lot of times you're questioning, we see, like, you hear a voice, and is that the good voice? Is that the angel? Or is that the opponent? Right? So I think that I've been listening to the good voice. I know that I've been listening. I've been getting this good voice in my head asking me, and then being very honest with myself. Like, I can't lie to myself. I can't be so eager to put the fella that I fail. Like, I didn't come to this world to fail. I will fail at things, right? But I don't want to choose the thing
that you're going to. Right, you're not
going to have no chance.
Right.
That's just like being stupid,
Right.
you know. So it was I'm so happy that I did it, you know. But that's another thing of
Following that. And right.
yeah.
You're always around really great people. You're obviously one yourself. What would you say is the best way to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are aspiring to be successful, that are driven, that are spiritual?
So it's an interesting sort of catch-22, right? So I think that positive people attract positive people, and I only want positive people in my life. You know, like if you're surrounded by positivity, you want to be, it helps you be in the right place at the right time, and it'll also only attract positive people in your life, right? So I'll have to be careful. Sometimes I see that like a test, you know, like somebody wants to invest, but that person's dark. Are you taking the money? You know, or would you rather surround yourself with positivity, forego that money, and probably more money will come in somewhere else?
Right.
So I think that you have to want to have positive people around you, but you have to be positive. Like you can't
be negative all day and then be like,
I just want positive people around me to somehow make me not positive.
Right.
Like you have to
do the work yourself first.
You got to do the work.
Right.
Right. Otherwise, like attracts like.
Right.
Right. So if you're negative, the positive people don't want to be around you.
Exactly. You might want to be around them, but they definitely
They want to be around you. You won't get any of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. The last question I'll ask you is, if you could look back at your 20-year-old self, the Shareef today, and the Shareef at 20 years old, what's one piece of advice that you'd go back and give him?
Be grateful for your successes, because without the light of the Creator, you would have none. It's a lesson in humility.
Beautiful. Shareef, thank you for being on the show.
I love you, brother.
Love you too. It was an absolute pleasure. Guys, thank you for tuning in.
I love you, man.
We'll definitely have a round two of this. This was
Okay.
This was fun.
Got it.
Thank you so much for being on.
Great.